Hey everyone, it's Ten Types. Today we're talking about a card that could potentially be printed in the future that, if printed, would probably break Dragapult. And I know what some of you are thinking. Dragapult's like kind of already broken, right? But I think this card would make it even better. Currently, if we look at the metagame, we see that Dragapult is, when combined, a lot of the meta. We see it's like, I'll just say 20% in the metagame. If you look at in-person tournaments, it's going to be a bit more. And if you look at online tournaments, it's going to be a bit less. But ultimately, it is, really highly played. But it's not like unbeatable or, I'd say in some ways it's a little bit of a slow deck. You look at the deck and it's a stage 2 with 2 energies. And setting up is, it's not super clunky, but it is good. It is very, very powerful. Arguably, it's probably tier 0, but we have seen more dominant decks in the future. However, there's currently one thing that I think could make the deck even better, and that is it's a Psychic Dreepy here. This is an older Psychic Dreepy. Dreepy, if you don't know, will be either Psychic or Dragon type, because I believe it's Ghost in the video game. Ghost and Psychic in the video game turn into Psychic in the same exact way in the TCG. So honestly, I assume it's Ghost, but I don't know. Could be Psychic. Anyways, so Dreepy has been in the past. It's had 4 printings, and in 3 of them, it's been Psychic, and 1 of them has been Dragon. Obviously, the one is Standard. And the reason this is so good is because of Telepathic Psychic Energy. Now, I will mention all the ones we've seen in the past have had 60 HP. Obviously, 70 HP is going to be better than 60 HP because, well, it's more HP, but still within the very profit searchable range. The 60 HP is bad because of, well, Dragapult EX there. That being said, I think the value you get from a Psychic Dreepy is going to outweigh the 70 HP there. I could see playing maybe one 70 HP Dreepy, but I do think a 6 HP Dreepy that would be Psychic would be really good. If you lower the HP even lower to 50, I think it's still fine. Honestly, the difference between 50 and 60 is somewhat meaningful. If you also have a 70 HP basic on the bench, because you're looking at 60 twice as opposed to 60 potentially 3 times, or however your opponent's playing around with damage cards, like with Mikey Dori. Mikey Dori can only be spread out so much. Dragapult EX can be spread out as much as it needs to there, or as much as it needs to on the bench there. So ultimately, though, I think it's the lower HP would be fine, and I think that also you look at the current Dreepy. It's not good as an attacker. Bite's actually an okay-ish attack, I suppose. But I can't really, like, for 200 on a basic, 40s, for like a pre-evolution basic, I think it's above average by like a bit, but it's not like actually good. Obviously, generally you'll be playing Dracloak. Dracloak just has an objectively better attack, not like an amazing attack, but okay, definitely attack you'll see used. And obviously a very good ability, and has more HP. Like, essentially, there's no reason to not evolve into Dracloak. I guess there's the ability thing, but anyways, what I'm saying is Dreepy's attacks aren't very good. Petty Grudge you actually do see used, I'd say quite a bit. I mean, it's not like part of your game plan. Dracloak isn't really part of your game plan as an attacker either, but Dreepy is definitely not. But, there are definitely times when you're like, oh, well, I don't really have anything else to do, so I might as well do the 10. There are also times when you don't even want to attack for damage, but regardless, even if the other Dreepy has literally no attacks, if we got a Psychic 1, then that would be pretty scary. Now, this obviously would need to be before Dragapult EX rotates. I don't think they'll do. I don't think they should do this. I don't think anyone really wants to see Dragapult be better. It's very, very good, and I would say, in some ways, any Psychic Dreepy, as we'll kind of get to, might make the deck more interesting. It might not, but I'd say it's already a relatively interesting deck. Very heavily played. So in that sense, it's boring because you just see it all over the place. But the gameplay patterns with the deck can be interesting, and there's also a bunch of different deck builds. I would say, though, the Psychic Dreepy would not necessarily add to the deck builds. Currently, you can play it with the different Pokemon. You could play it without really any other stuff, I guess. But then you're looking at, Mikey Dori, some different basics there. And then you could also play it with, like, Blaziken. You play it with Dustor. Dustor, I would say, is the highest ceiling build, but it's a little clunky to play with. If you didn't see my video when the set first came out with Perfect Order, I played with Telepathic Psychic Energy in Dragapult EX, and I got some comments. They were like, "Yeah, that like doesn't work on Dreepy," which it doesn't. As I said, Telepathic Psychic Energy. If you're not familiar, this card is the reason why the Psychic Dreepy would be so good. And again, I don't necessarily think we will get it, but I think it is a possibility. And if we get it, it would be absurd, right? In my opinion. But what Telepathic Psychic Energy says, as long as it's attached to a Pokemon, it provides Psychic Energy. And this way you can attach it to Dragapult EX, and be able to attack with it for, the psychic there instead of your basic psychic energies. In terms of the downsides of playing this card, you can't play Crispin with it really. I mean, you can't use Crispin with telepathic psychic energy. You can't really play Crispin in your deck so much if you're playing telepathic psychic energy. And then also on top of that, it can be removed. It's special energy, so by enhanced hammer, blowtorch, things like that, they can remove the special energy, or there are different things that can target it, right? So that can be a downside. Can't be recovered with Night Stretcher either. Ultimately, though, the special energy removal thing, theoretically, I would say is the biggest thing, but we don't really see that. So, like, we don't see much special energy removal outside of maybe like Alexam, you might see a little bit there. But then you look at the fact that what it actually does is when you attach it from your hand to a psychic Pokemon, search your deck for up to 2 basic psychic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. Ultimately, telepathic psychic energy is a special energy that is a double Pokemon search card. That's really amazingly powerful. Previously, we had the special energy capture energy, which was just when it was attached to a Pokemon. First of all, it provided only a colorless energy, but when attached to a Pokemon you search for a basic, put it onto your bench. It's just one card. So theoretically, telepathic psychic energy is going to have a higher ceiling here. Obviously, though, it's going to be, it requires you to have Psychic Pokemon in play, and you want more Psychic Pokemon in play. Currently, the best use of this card is, no, I'll just talk about the different uses real quick. So you have it in Alakazam. In Alakazam, it has some downside. I wouldn't say it's a horrible downside, but it's definitely a meaningful downside. Not being able to do Wonder Dispatch, and you can't get it back with Stretcher. But it, you can use it. But ultimately, you're only playing so many Psychic Pokemon. You're just running your basic Psychics are going to be the Abras there. So you can attach to an Abra to get 2 more, which is useful for the first time, but after that, it's kind of meh. You're going to be playing a lot of Dunsparce pieces, or Dunsparces specifically, like over and over again onto your bench, and you want bench space for that. So you're going to, you're not looking for a board full of Psychic Pokemon there. Then you look at it in the Lily's Clefairy Ogerpon deck. This deck and run Telepathic Psychic Energy for Lily's Clefairy EX. I can get Latias EX. Those are the only cards that you can really search with it here. I suppose it does depend exactly what you're looking at, but with that here, it gets more Pokemon to your bench, and that's mostly what it does for Area Zero Underdepth, or not for Area Zero Underdepths, for Lily's Clefairy EX, presumably when you have Area Zero Underdepths in play to do more damage there. That is like cool, I guess, and it it does also get you your Latias EX as well, which is cool. It's not crazy good, but it's good. It's definitely nice. And then you look at, I guess we got Hops Trevenant, where it like does some cool stuff. I suppose that's not like that popular. There's Slowking as well, but those are the decks to look at it in. Predominantly, I think there. And so, it does some stuff, but most of those decks aren't running crazy amounts of Psychic Pokemon and don't really want to flood your board with Psychic Pokemon. On the other hand, with Dragapult EX, you want to flood your board with Dreepies. Dreepies are pretty good. Like, they evolve into Dracloak, which is pretty good at letting you see 2 extra cards every turn and draw one of those, put one of them into your hand. So, and the other one's on the bottom, right? So you see 2, and then if you use a bunch of Dracloaks in a row, you see like 2 per Dracloak, because you're not like putting the other one back on top. But anyways, Telepathic Psychic Energy here, letting you put this on a Dreepy and then get more Dreepies is really good. Additionally, you can use it with Dusknoir. Dusknoir is pretty good. It can counter. There's some interesting things there. But ultimately, if you pair this with Dusknoir, you can get a bunch of Dusknoirs into play and a bunch of Dreepies then. And you can be running a board on mostly Psychic Pokemon there. Get really good value out of Telepathic Psychic Energy, more than any other deck in the game, I would say, in that situation. Or at least equal. Probably, I'd say more. And then, ultimately with that, that's really powerful. And as I said, the downside is not that bad. In my opinion, it could be somewhat of an issue at times, but I'm not too worried about that. On top of that, there are also, let's just look at a Dragapult EX deck. I'll pull up the one that won like a recent tournament, and in it, actually, I don't know, that one is Monkey Dory. I'll pull up this one here. We see Latias EX as well in the deck, so you're going to see Latias EX and Monkey Dory, also Lily's Clefairy EX, I guess. It's a pretty generically good Psychic Pokemon. Obviously, you need Psychic Energy, but you have that. And, that's not going to be as probably universal. Certainly as Latias is a card that can go in a lot of decks, and Monkey Dory obviously can go in Pult. And then, I guess I will also mention with if you're playing Monkey Dory, you're playing Darkness Energy and Fire Energy as basics, and then also you'd be playing Telepathic Psychic Energy, and then you still could use Crispin if you want, though it doesn't work anywhere near as cleanly, but it is still an option there. So you don't completely miss out on that or anything like that. But it allows you to set up better that way. You can also use it with Frillish. I will mention, at one point I played Dust War Dragapult with 4 telepathic psychic energies, and I played it with Frillish. As I said, I like played that when the set came out, and that felt pretty interesting. It didn't feel. I mean, there are definitely games where, because you can't attach the telepathic psychic to Dreepy to set up, and then you're like really behind on energies there. But if you attach it to something else, then you can set up a really nasty board of Dust Noirs and like just get set up really well. You can then spend your other Pokemon search on the Dreepies and Dracos. And so Telepathic Psychic Energy, even though it doesn't like, it's not like Dragapult is a deck that doesn't set up super well. It sets up well, but I mean, it will certainly take more help as well if it comes at very little cost there. Ultimately, though, I'd love to hear people's thoughts on the comment section on this. If they think that a Psychic type Dreepy would break open the game, or I don't know, like break it even more. I definitely think Dragapult is very good, right? Obviously, but it is beatable as well, right? It's a deck that you can beat. It's a deck that there are different ways to play as well. But I think with this potential card addition to the game, and I actually did a video as well talking about some cards that could potentially like change the game when printed, that could be printed. This one was, I think, the one that was maybe the least likely. There's some I talked about that like didn't exist as well. There's some weird cards in that video that I mentioned, but with that, I really legitimately think this would really mess with the deck, and then also make the Dusknoir build like by far the best one. Also, I guess I'll mention then you could play Psyduck, and to counter that, you could play or not Mysterious. You could play Flutter Mane there to then counter the Psyduck, and things get really messy, but not in a super fun way. Also, I guess I will mention being a Dragon type doesn't really give you much advantage. I mean, it gives you some advantage for like tankiness, I guess, like not even weakness, I suppose. Obviously, then you have Loyalist Cleric EX, which gives you weakness, but on the basic, doesn't really matter there. I wouldn't be worried about that. Instead, the lower HP could be a bit of an issue, but not a huge issue, and wouldn't even know if that would be the case. I certainly would not be shocked to see the next Dreepy being printed having 70 HP. I suppose, on the other hand, if it had more than 70 HP, I didn't even really think about that one. It would definitely feel a little weirder without being able to use Buddy Poffin. In some sense, the telepathic psychic energies could swap out for the Buddy Poffin, though, because again, you are still attaching what you want to do anyways. So ultimately, I think this card would be really powerful and would create a legitimately amazing use of telepathic psychic energy. Telepathic Psychic Energy has already proven to be a pretty decent card in some decks. Honestly, like a very powerful card, but again, pretty swingy there. But being able to combine that with the more steady gameplay pattern of Dragapult EX, again, completely breaks the deck and the card. But anyways, tell me down below your thoughts in the comment section on this card. I guess Telepathic Psychic Energy, and what your thoughts are. If I'm like exaggerating, if the Psychic type Dreepy wouldn't actually be that good in terms of power level. But I hope you all enjoy. Make sure you like and subscribe. That really does help support me. If you enjoyed the video, I really would appreciate it if you didn't do that. And also, huge shout outs to my YouTube members for joining the channel. And you can get some cool stuff as well if you join. So huge shout outs to all of you, though. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.